Thanks for being here. I know that there's a million different things going on any given day and a million different places that you could be. Lots of familiar faces and some people that I don't quite know yet. And we're going to be admitting people as they come, so it's okay if you're late. So who this event is for, that's where I want to start. If you're on this call, you're probably somebody who's already running a successful company. You're focused on improving your culture, your efficiency, your profit, right? Your quality. And for most of you, you know that there's something special about the way that you do business. There's something about your business and the way you operate it that is different and unique. And if you're on this call, you probably have some growth problems. So growth problems are a unique kind of animal. Every business has problems. There's no business that doesn't, right? I was working with an executive team last week and reminding them that you can't do your business as though problems are going to be the exception. You should do it as though problems are going to be the rule, because there are always going to be issues. So your job, and especially as you grow, is to figure out which problems deserve your attention that day, that week, that month. So growth problems are, like I said, a unique kind of animal. The other thing that's true is that growth problems occur at different levels of your business as you get big. So it's a little bit like you've been playing baseball and you become a really good baseball team, you're adept at that, and then all of a sudden one day you're playing football and nobody told you and you're not trained to play football. So now some of the things will still work, some of the things won't work at all, but if you're not prepared to play football when football comes for you, you're going to get creamed and it's going to be really painful. So how do you know if you're someone who has growth problems, right? And I know that there's a range of people on this call. Some of you are small and hoping to do it right the first time and avoid some of these shenanigans. Some of you have already gotten big and you're going a little crazy, busting at the seams. So how do you know if you have growth problems? Well, because they're a different kind of animal, you can't just look around and go, we have issues. There are specific complaints that come up when people have growth problems. So I'm going to run through these right now and ask you if this sounds like you. So first, do you feel like you have good people and they're all working harder than ever, but it still takes forever to get good work out the door? Do you feel like your culture is changing? Like you used to be tight and it was awesome and everybody had a great time and it was easy, and now you've got weird people creeping in that don't seem to get it, and it's just kind of not as awesome as it used to be? This is one of my favorite. Do you get sick of dealing with the same problem over and over and over and over again? Have you ever been ready to tear your hair out because somebody comes to you with the same question you answered last week and the week before that and the week before that, and you just can't believe they don't get it, right? If you feel like how many of you, raise your hand for this one if you're on video, how many of you feel like you're spending all your time in meetings and you don't have any time to do your actual job? Yep. That's a really good, consistent sign that you have growth problems. How many of you are working really hard but you just can't, you don't have any time to work on the big picture? You're stuck in the day-to-day and you can't seem to get yourself unstuck, right? You're making a lot of money, maybe more than you've ever made, but you're also spending a lot of money and not sure that that's okay, right? Anybody get nervous when you see those numbers come in every now and then, right? There's still money in the account, but ooh, those are big numbers. And maybe you just feel tired, like you feel like you're scrambling all the time to just try and stay on top of it, and you can't ever quite get ahead. All of those questions are good indicators that the problems you're dealing with are not just problems you can solve like you solved everything else. These are consistent with growth stages. So what we're going to do today is I'm actually going to walk you through how to get your business to work again, what it looks like to go from playing baseball to playing football in this analogy. Even though growth has created a lot of new problems, and some of them you're probably really frustrated by, like you just don't know how to solve that particular thing, I'm going to show you the shifts that you need to make mentally and where your attention is going. Like these are the keys to feeling excited and confident in your business again. Because have you just had a day or two, or maybe a month or two, or a year or two for some of you? Every now and then I bump into people who have a couple decades of this where, you know, technically you're winning, but it stopped being fun. Because you're not winning very big, right? It kind of feels like your business is running you. Those are all typically very good indicators that they're growth problems. So we're going to dig in on that today. And the goal is going to be to get you what you need so you can make the shifts that are going to matter for you, so you can get back to being excited. So you actually know what to work on. How many of you, you'd be excited if somebody would just tell you what to do? Like there was a point a couple of years ago where I was like, you could put me in a pink tutu and have me dance down Broadway, and I'd be happy to do that if only it would fix the things I can't figure out how to fix. So after today, you're going to know this is where to shift your attention to so you can get back to work and get back to building the business that you wanted to create in the first place. Sound good? All right, so we're going to have people keep joining us as we go. I hope that beeping and buzzing isn't too much for everybody. Couple of things about house rules, okay? The things that I'm going to outline for you today are simple, but that doesn't mean that they're easy, right? If you came here today and you have this thought, like I can wave a magic wand and fix everything in 90 minutes, then you should know this call wouldn't be free if that were true, okay? So everything that I'm going to talk to you about will make sense after I lay it out for you, and it'll be easy to understand, but not necessarily be easy to implement. Your results depend on your effort. And so this isn't about what I say. It's not about the notes that you take. It's about the insights that you get that have you take a different set of actions at the end of this call. So if you find yourself tuning out because you're getting something really good, you had an insight that would make a big difference for you, that's fine. Focus on that. Because what matters is that you get something you can take action on so you get real results. And last, if your business is struggling to make payroll or you've got cash issues, this may not be a good set of solutions for you. If you're running a fast growing company, you know that cash is like oxygen in space. You can't run out of it. And if you're having trouble with that, then your business isn't as stable as it needs to be. And your first focus should be on stabilizing there. And then you can do some of this kind of stuff. But nothing works if cash doesn't work. So always start there, right? Okay. Now, the good news is that even though growth problems can be really tough, they actually have known solutions and we can make sure that you get them. So what we're going to cover today is 5 critical shifts, right? Nice and easy to remember. These are the things that you want to do where you go from point A to point B that will make the difference in being able to navigate growth really successfully, where you can keep the things that make you special, deliver the kind of quality that you want to deliver, see your people grow and thrive, and maybe most important, actually enjoy your business yourself, all while you're protecting profit, because the things that you do to build a smarter business should make it more fun, should make it more profitable, should increase quality, okay? So I'm going to share my screen here and we'll slip over to the slides for a few minutes. All right. Everybody good? Okay. So first thing, the problem isn't that your company grew. A lot of times in business, what we do is we talk about, oh, you got too big or you grew too fast. That's not actually the issue. The issue is that you got big and you missed some stuff along the way. So if you're just getting ready to grow, you can put that stuff in as you go and avoid a lot of expensive headaches. But even if you've already gotten big, you can go back and redo those things. There's still a chance, right? So a couple words about who I am. So again, my name is Alecia Huck. I'm a management consultant. A lot of you here know me. Some of you know someone who knows me. My specialty is working with the leadership teams of fast growing companies. I help them build their systems and processes, train their people, and really manage those stages of intense growth better than what they were doing before. I've worked in almost every industry, from grocery and retail store empires up in South Dakota, all the way to construction companies in California, manufacturing in Denver. This past year, I worked with alternative court programs at the national level and actually got to do some work with the Council of State Supreme Court Chief Justices, which is insane because that shouldn't be a room that I belong in, right? So I've done pretty much everything in almost every industry, and these growth problems that we're going to talk about, they show up consistently, they have consistent solutions that you can adapt to fit your personality, but there are answers that are remarkably consistent because the problems are consistent across all those industries. I have expertise in human behavior, process science, as well as change management and organizational development, all of which is a really fancy way to talk about helping people suck less. Okay, so I mostly work with executive teams. That's my specialty. And all of the things that I'm going to share with you today come from the real world. This is not stuff that was made up in a vacuum or for a book somewhere by people who've never actually done it. It comes from dealing with real companies, real people, real problems, and building real solutions for them over the past 2 decades. Okay, so let's jump in. So as I said, we're going to look at 5 big shifts that you want to make today. We're going to do them one at a time, and you'll have time to capture your thoughts. And in a couple of spots to actually, we'll move you into a breakout room so you can share your ideas with other people and get some good ideas from them. We're going to end on time, if not early, and we're going to keep it really sharp and to the point. Okay. All right. So what is the first shift? Well, the first shift might actually surprise you because it is, you stop. There we go. Be stubborn. You guys, you're going to get so much advice, right? And a lot of it's going to be bad. People who mean well and really do care about you and really do think they know, they're going to tell you things like, you just need to let go and trust your people. Stupider words have never been spoken by anyone ever. It's your business. Most of you have dug in. You've risked your mortgage, your marriage, your children, all kinds of things to be able to have that business be effective. So to just casually say, you just need to let go, trust your people, has always struck me as really stupid advice. But people will tell you that. They're going to tell you that you need to look more like big companies. Well, now that you're bigger, you've got to have all this stuff. You've got to have more rules and more policies and a bigger binder. You've got to have less freedom and less fun. And I get it because there's a lot at stake. But the truth is, you can't just give up who you are in order to make those people happy. So don't fall for it. I know that it's hard to understand how things that used to work so well just kind of don't anymore. And growth problems, they're not just painful or confusing, they can also be really expensive. And when you're dealing with growth problems, you don't really have a lot of time to look at the big picture and do the work to keep building. So you just end up with more problems and more meetings, and you're already pretty tired of all of it. So it's tempting to just throw in the towel and do what everybody else does. Add rules, add red tape, be more like other people. Don't fall for it. Yes, there are real changes that you need to make, but you're definitely not going to succeed if you try to be somebody that you're not. And even if you could, why would you want to? So you might need to make real changes in your business and even in how you manage people or how you think about things. You might need to hire people you haven't hired before, make some adaptations for your industry, but don't give up who you are. Be stubborn. There are a lot of different ways to win. I have seen CEOs that have messy desks and some that have clean desks. I've seen people who come in early and people who work really late. I've seen people who are too nice and people who are too mean. There are 1,000 ways to do this, and your job is to find yours. So listen to the advice, take it under consideration, but at the end of the day, if it actually doesn't work for you, be really stubborn and don't do that. Find your way. Don't just break down and copy other people's way, okay? So what I'm going to have you do now is I want you to actually pause for a second, and you're going to write down one of 2 things, okay? First thing is, I want you to think back to a couple of things that you tried that were somebody else's way of doing something that people told you you had to do. What's the advice that you got that maybe you even gave it the old college try? Mine this year was podcasts. Well, you got to do podcasts. It's the best way to build a consulting business. You have to do podcasts. So I spent money and hired a person and got a coach and did all the podcasts and nothing. Like, I'm good on podcasts, but there's something there that I missed that's just not a fit for me or in how we set it up. And that's okay. It was an experiment, right? When I first started in business, my old boss told me I'd have to cold call. And I was like, fine, I'll fail. Can't do it. Can't make myself cold call. Did 30,000 of them before I was 30, and I'm just never going back to that world. So one question you can answer is, what are a couple of things that you tried that other people you told you had to do? It was this book you had to read, this planner you had to get. If you're old enough, you remember the Franklin Covey planners, right? Plan out every single moment of every single day, and then you'll do, great miraculous things in life. Or you can answer this question. What are a couple of things that make your company unique and special that you really want to protect? Those are the things you're going to want to be stubborn about. Like, I really believe that you shouldn't have to become someone that you're not in order to succeed. So we talk about that, we promote that, we build that into the system. It's something that I want people to hear, whether they ever work with me or not. That's a big deal in my world. And I'll go down swinging for that. I'd be interested if you want to throw a little bit in the chat, something you tried that didn't go well, like put tried marketing, right? Tried podcasts. Maybe you get talked into SEO and that was the thing, right? If you just get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and exercise every day and eat yogurt You'll be fine. You'll be a god.
Or make your bed every morning.
Yeah, make your bed every day is another one, right? Just don't hire people who need to be managed, you guys. It's all really simple. Oh, talked out of terminating someone. Ooh, that's a good one. Or talked into keeping someone, right? That didn't belong and it kept getting worse is always a big one. And what are some of the things that you feel like make you special? What are the things that you would like? This is kind of your line in the sand. There's a point to you running a business and you want to make sure that you protect that. Not. Let me make sure I see if the chat comes up.
The chat so far, I have tried outsourcing digital marketing, talked out of terminating. You saw that one. Customer obsession. Yes. Yes. Tried manually documenting all policies and procedures and having many people involved in the effort. Yeah.
Oh God, you got into the Michael Gerber trap. Bless his heart. Where you're like, hey, we have 300 employees. We'll go back and write a huge manual for every single job. It'll be fine.
Yuck.
Specialty communication style. Wow, I want that specialty because communication is definitely one of the hardest things to get right. So kudos to you. Trying to be the rock star salesperson and the executor. Oh yeah. Yeah, those are very.
You've done that. Like you're not good at sales and you keep trying to be the salesperson, or you're really good at sales and you keep trying to give that job away. And that's the thing that's messing you up. Beth, I see you. Okay. All right, good. You guys, there's so much, there's so many ways that it can get off track, right? But for some of you, is it just kind of a relief to hear somebody say you don't have to take all the bad advice, like you could actually fight back? Because it took me a long time to learn that one. But if you're going to be in business for yourself, you should be able to win as you. A lot of us put a lot at stake for our businesses, not just financially, right? But that's your heart and soul. That's a lot of late nights and early mornings. So it should reflect something that you care about. And that's important that it has that voice in the world. So I'm going to pop back over into our slides. So that's shift number 1. We're cranking right through them. And I want to move on to shift number 2. So this one is tough, you guys. And I know, I get it. When there's so much going on and you're working as hard as you can to just try and keep up at times, it can actually feel and be a little dangerous to let yourself get present to how much stuff isn't working, right? Especially if you're not quite sure how to fix it. If you're like me and most of the people I've worked with, you've had these moments where it's all just too much and you're not sure about any of it. And that can be a very scary 3 a.m. conversation with yourself. So one of the things that happens, because it can be overwhelming, because there can just be a lot, just for many of us, we're just not used to not knowing what to do. And we hit these new levels of complexity and problems, and that can really trip us up. It might look like it's easier to just keep working, right? I'm just going to keep going. It'll work itself out. But the truth is, growth problems are a unique kind of animal, and they do not get better on their own. In fact, they usually get worse. And successful people and companies have a strong relationship to reality. They're not afraid to look at what's actually working and what is not actually working. They're not telling themselves a nice fantasy about the results. They're dealing with what the results actually are. And here's the thing. The truth is that business is hard even when it's good and your people are awesome and you've done it 10 times before and you got plenty of money in the bank account. So it's okay if you don't have all the answers. You can be really smart and really hardworking, and things might still be confusing and frustrating. And the thing to know about growth is that there are certain levels where your business really does change as much as baseball to football. It's not, it looks the same. You recognize it. It has the same name. You're in the same office building. You're just taking up more space, but the whole thing has completely changed. So this is the time to actually tell the truth to yourself. And there's a big reason to do that. Like I said, I know it can seem easier to just like keep going and wait for when it slows down, and it can really be overwhelming. But the truth is, until you let yourself get present to how it actually feels and the weight of it, you're not going to be willing to do the work to make the changes that you have to make, and neither will your team. Change is hard for people. Have you ever noticed that? Sometimes even when you want it and you've been begging for it and working for it, it comes and you're like, I don't know, right? So you have to get present to what's not working. You have to sit down and look it in the eye and pay attention to it so that you can A, find the problems that really need to be fixed, and B, be willing to do the changes, be willing to go through the process of actually making that change. So this one, I'm going to have you write a few things down, and I don't want you, this is not to share. I mean, you're welcome to when we do the group share, but we're not going to break into rooms and have you puke all this out on somebody else. But I do think it's important to ask yourself these questions. And this is going to be useful when we get to the part of the session where we look at what your plan is. So be as honest with yourself as you can, okay? This is your chance, and then we'll shift to how you actually fix these things. So relief is coming. But the first question I'd love you to write down, what are the big projects that you just can't seem to get to? You've been wanting to do them for a long time. You keep thinking, if I only had more time, I know I need to. What are the things you keep putting off that you just can't seem to get to? What's the thing you're most annoyed by right now? And that thing might be a person, right? Could be somebody that used to be your rock star, and now they've turned into kind of a temperamental, bratty nightmare. Might be a client. It could be that you've got a POS system that just doesn't work the way it needs to, or that for some reason you always have to work on Saturday, that you can't ever find a marketing company that actually listens when you tell them all the other things you've tried and doesn't try to shoehorn you into trying that exact same set of non-working things again. What's annoying you? This one is a good one. What are the things that just keep happening over and over and over? Is there a question that people keep asking? Is there a particular breakdown that keeps happening? See, when you're smaller, you got to be solving so many problems every single day. But as your organization grows, you need to shift to focusing on patterns and dealing with patterns of information and behavior and results, or the lack of them. So what are the things that keep happening over and over? Is there anything that you're frustrated by, or maybe even a little embarrassed about? Like something that keeps going on and you just, oh, it's got you. I'll tell you, I'll fess up, mine was email. So earlier this year, I just stopped checking email and didn't tell anyone, which it turns out is a really mean thing to do when most people are trying to communicate with you in that way. I just got overwhelmed. I had lots of travel and people I was on site with, and it's easy to just ignore it, right? And then there would be breakdowns. People would call me, or they'd send the third email reminder, and I was embarrassed that I had let that go and I wasn't giving good customer service. But until I actually sat myself down and dealt with all the people that I'd let down and where those breakdowns had occurred, I wasn't willing to make any big changes. But doing that actually had me hire someone who now reads all my emails. And then she texts me if anything is urgent. It's so magical. I feel like I have Santa Claus living in my office every single day. So what are the things that you're frustrated about, embarrassed by? Is there any place where you feel like you're letting people down? And you may not be letting them down. You just might feel like it. And this can include your family or your friends or charities that you're committed to, your church organization, some nonprofit that you work with. And this is one of the most important. Is there someone in your organization that you need to have a talk with? You should have already confronted them. You should have fired them. You should have dealt with whatever's going on with that person, and you haven't yet. And then, is there anything that you're tired of pretending about? You know, when you have to pretend, like you have to pretend that cash flow is fine and you don't need that next client. You have to pretend that you're not ready to murder the person who's being the stinker in your organization. You have to pretend that vendor relationship still works until you can find a new one. What are the things that you're pretending? All right. So you don't have to, but I'm curious. I'd love to call on a few people and just grab some things because the truth is, if you're having this thought, if this breakdown is happening where you are, it almost certainly is happening for somebody else on the call or that will listen to the recording later. So anybody willing to share any of the things that you're like, oh, this one's just got me. I'm so sick of it. By the way, if you share it, I might magically be able to help you. Oh, Mariana, very good. You got to take yourself off mute. There we go.
Hi. Well, first, the email thing totally hit home. I had already put it in chat. Like, it's just the amount of overwhelming email is insane. And I also hired someone to help me go through it because it's ridiculous. But the big one is just that I'm the front person and I'm the beginning of the sales and all of that. And you got to be perky and energetic to do that all the time. And I'm a normally perky and energetic person. However, I'm tired. And so it's just getting to be too much perkiness and too much social and too much, on time. And I think that is probably a typical thing that folks that, we're at the beginning of our growth stage. We're still quite small, and I'm still the one on for that. And trying to hire for that is tricky.
It's a fun problem, isn't it? Like the only way out is to do more work.
Yeah, it's great.
Like, yeah, I just need to find 6 extra hours to hire the people and then train the people that will do the thing that I don't want to do anymore. And I'm already exhausted. And PS, it's 10:30 and my kid just puked on me.
Yep. That's very accurate.
Right? Very good. Thank you, Mariana. Anybody else? What's something that's not working that you're like, oh, I wish you could fix this one for me on the call, Alecia?
Yeah, sure. I'll go. So I'm Doug. I'm a founder with 51 employees, and everything we give to our development team, just if they say it'll be done next month, it'll be done next month, next year. Yep. It just is painstakingly slow, the development process.
How many of you have something like that? Thank you, Doug. How many of you have something like that where there's just a place where it's like where stuff goes to die and you're not sure what's happening over there, but man, where is this fast forward button, right? Very good. One other person, anybody else got one? Yeah, Arezou.
Hi, I'm Arezou Zarafshan, and I'm also a founder. My challenge isn't necessarily a problem employee. It's more of she was very good when we started, and now we're at a different level, and we have grown out of her skill set.
Yeah.
And because, she helped at very early stages, she also invested in the company. Mm-hmm. I am very hesitant about ruffling her feathers, but she isn't keeping up,
How many of you have that? That's called the legacy and loyalty problem. A lot of owners, as your business is growing, right? I work with Lisa and she's the first one in and we're so great. I love her so much. And I'm like, we're going to be together forever. Except running a $10 million company is very different than running a $100 million company. And we put this idea in people's minds that they're just going to stay on the top of the pyramid as they grow, instead of saying we should all be willing to hire our boss. Because there's going to be a point where we're going to need a different set of knowledge or a different set of skills where what I know isn't going to be enough. And some of us can meet that bar and keep raising and growing, and that's great. But we should all be really humble about that, because this is like an Olympic team. We want the best group to get us where we need to go. And it's especially tricky because we like to say that business is business, but business is not just business. Business is also personal. We have personal relationships. Human beings are social creatures. So we're sensitive to the friend that was worked with you and all those different things. And how do you navigate all that stuff, right? And I don't know if you've noticed, there's no playbook. Have you gone to the bookstore and been like, what do I do with this crappy person who is also my friend? Very good, you guys. Okay, so we talked about a little bit, be stubborn, do it your way, right? Be willing to make some changes. We talked about how there are just things that are not working the way that you would like them to work. What do you do about all of this stuff? So I'm going to pop back into the slides here, because this is the important thing, right? This is the juice you really came to. Before I do that, let me just remind you, you don't have to fix everything in order to fix everything. It's not a zero-sum game. It's not like you got to cover all 1,522 things that aren't working in your organization. This is about triaging. There are some problems that matter more, and there are some solutions that are more valuable. So what I don't want you to do is look at all the stuff that you want to change and get overwhelmed. Like, there is no way to do all of that. Some of these things are tied together, so you can kill a bunch of problems with one really good solution when it's designed well and in the model I'm about to give you, okay? So you don't have to fix everything to fix everything. This is one of my favorite sections. So shift number 3 is your secret weapon. And I'm going to tell you what it is in a minute, but I want you to know that I love this one. And here's the thing. There's a big reason that people get growth so wrong. And part of it is because your business looks the same, but it's actually a completely different business. And one of the analogies I use with people is that it's a little bit like you have a flat tire, except you don't know you have a flat tire. And in fact, you don't even know what a flat tire is. So you're trying to drive fast and get places with this problem that you don't actually know is there because you can't see it. You don't know how to see it, and you don't actually know what to do about it. So what you're going to end up doing as you try to fix these things is you're going to keep trying to apply solutions that should work, but don't, if you're like most people. And in some cases, the things that you try are actually going to make things worse, right? I hear from a lot of people, we hired another member of our executive team, and then they just ended up doing longer meetings and more of them because they had another person they had to keep in the loop. So no matter how much work that individual did, it was still broken. It's confusing and frustrating, and a lot of times it's really expensive because you're going to keep trying more stuff and it's going to keep not working. So the secret weapon that I'm going to share with you today is going to make so much sense. But before we talk about that, I want to actually just cover briefly some of the things that you might have tried that don't actually work. Again, most people try a whole bunch of things. So I don't want you to feel bad or feel like you made a mistake in trying these things. But I do want you to understand why they don't work, so you don't spend more of your time and attention and energy that you need to be putting elsewhere into things that actually cannot fix your growth problems. So some of the things that you might have tried. Your first instinct, if you're like most people, is going to be to work harder. That's how you got where you are so far. So you come a little earlier, you stay a little later, maybe you even work on weekends, so do your best people. But for some reason, like Doug was saying, it still takes forever to get stuff out of development for no apparent reason. Hiring more people. This is a very popular solution. It makes sense logically that it should work, but a lot of times it doesn't, because you, like I said, you end up with more people in more meetings that have to be looped in, and there's more, except it actually doesn't speed anything up. Buying expensive software. Somewhere right now, someone is trying some way to sell software to your business. They are in your inbox, they're in your LinkedIn, and they really believe deep down in their sweet little souls that that solution they have is the thing that's going to fix everything, right? It's a new EOS system, it's new organizational strategy, it's new project management software. Most of the time, it actually doesn't work because there's other things that are broken, and if you don't fix those, the software doesn't even have a fighting chance. Communication training can be great, and everybody says they need to get better at communication, but remember, growth problems are tricky. And if you're driving with a flat tire, learning better ways to talk about it won't actually do you much good, right? We've all tried that. You teach everybody to be nice, and they just tell each other off in nicer ways because the underlying problem is still there. If you're like a lot of leaders, it really will feel like if you just had some time or the right system, if you could just get more organized, if you could just get your desk clean and keep it clean, you could actually handle everything. But getting organized doesn't fix flat tires either. And then copying what other companies do. You know, if you don't care about the unique way that you do business, it's fine to just copy other people, right? They call those things franchises. And franchises are great and very profitable. And so are templates and rules and HR manuals that are 7 inches thick. But you also have to know yourself. And if you're not going to follow the big book of rules, and by the way, if you showed up for a seminar from a company called Maverick, you're probably not going to follow the big book of rules. Then that approach isn't going to work for you. And the same goes for the Orange Book. If you've seen Traction and EOS, that's a great system. But what most people do is their version of Traction or EOS. And if you do your version, you're going to get your version of results, which is not at the same level as their version of results. And then this last one, waiting for when things slow down. How many of you have just been waiting for when it slows down? Like when it slows down, then I'll get to this, then I'll do that, then I'll. It never slows down. A new problem is going to pop up. Something else is going to happen. It's never going to slow down enough to get to all the things that you need to get to. And so you work really hard, you invest a lot in your business. It matters that you get a fighting chance to actually make it work. So what does that actually look like? If you can't do all of these things, if these are not the things that are going to make the difference, and you've tried them, and if you haven't, 5 other people on this call have, then what should you do? Well, I'm going to explain the secret weapon in a little bit of a weird way. So I live in Denver, Colorado, where a couple inches of snow is just not that big a deal. But if you get snow in Atlanta, Georgia, it'll shut down the whole city right away. And even though people will talk about how much snow there is and how fast it fell, the problem isn't the snow. It's not how fast it fell, it's not how much there is. Just like in a fast growing company, we talk about growth as the problem, but growth isn't the problem. How big you got isn't the problem. How fast you got that big isn't the problem. So to know what the problem is, you got to look at how we deal with snow in Colorado. If you're in Denver, Colorado, we have snowplows, trucks with gravel and all the chemicals. We have people that have been trained to run them. We have gear, hats, and gloves, and boots, and snow pants, and anything you could need. I got a closet full of this stuff, right? We got skis, because one of the things we do is we go skiing. When it snows, your biggest problem is that you can't find anybody to do the work because they're all up on the mountain, especially if the powder is really good. See, the thing about Colorado is we have infrastructure. We have systems and processes and tools and skills. We have a system for recruiting and training the people who are going to drive those trucks so that they have those skills. We have a process by which we determine which streets need to be plowed first so we can get to hospitals and schools. We have tools, all kinds of them. We spend millions on them to make sure that our city doesn't shut down when there's snow. And so, you guys, the problem for you is not that you got big, it's that you got big and your infrastructure didn't keep up, or it's not the right infrastructure. So the secret weapon to all of this, the thing that I swear makes everything so much better, is to build infrastructure, to shift from thinking about solving the problem in front of you and think about solving that problem as part of a larger pattern by focusing on that infrastructure. So what is infrastructure? Well, infrastructure is all the stuff that helps you do the work that you do. It's the way you get orders to production. Like when Doug sends something to his development team, it's the thing. It's the email that he sends. It's the form that he fills out or doesn't fill out. That's infrastructure. It's the meetings that you have with your people. How many of you have a meeting that is stupid and lasts too long and there are too many people in it, but nobody ever stops and says, we should redo this meeting? Because meetings don't get redone, they don't get refined, they just continue on in perpetuity, and we just keep having them and we just keep adding more people to them, and they take longer and they're more expensive. Meetings and the structures around them are infrastructure. The tools that you use to keep track of things. One of my favorite groups was about 30 to 40 million annual revenue grocery retail stores in the Midwest. And one day the chief operating officer called me and he said, you'd be so proud of me. I got rid of 32 notebooks this weekend. Because their infrastructure, since they were small, for keeping track of things is to write it down in a yellow notebook. He had 3 huge stacks of yellow notebooks in his office. He was excited because he went through 36 yellow legal pads and got rid of the stuff that was in them and consolidated them into a different yellow legal pad, right? That's an example of infrastructure that isn't working anymore. He needs a different way to keep track of all the stuff that needs to get done. So one of the reasons that all those other things that you tried didn't work is because they don't actually fix the real problem. Infrastructure problems require infrastructure solutions. You can't make the flat tire better by talking about it. You got to fix the flat tire. So what's broken for you if you're having growth problems is your systems. It's that the processes that you use don't fit anymore. They used to be fine when there were 3 of you in a garage somewhere, but now there's 30 of you on 2 different floors in 2 different rooms, or you got virtual employees from here to Kingdom Come, and those systems don't work anymore. The tools that you haven't built are getting in your way. There are tools that people need to do their job, and you've got them out there with a shovel when what they need is a snowplow. And it's all about the skills that your team doesn't have yet. All of these things are infrastructure. And all of the problems that we talked about in the beginning are really clear signs that you have infrastructure breakdowns, otherwise known as growth problems. So remember, you can't fix infrastructure problems by working harder or hiring more people any more than you can fix a flat tire by just hitting the gas or filling the car with friends. It just doesn't work. You have to get to the heart of the thing. So let me give you a couple of examples. That'd be helpful. So the first one is from an engineering firm that I worked with. Started out literally 3 guys in a garage, grew it to 8 to 10 million annual revenue. And at any given moment, they had about 70 projects under house. So I asked them, how do you keep track of your projects? Like, how do you know what's on track and what's not? How many of you have something similar in your world? It's your development team, it's your project management, whatever, right? And they said, and I'm not joking, well, we open up the plans and we look at them. So you have 4 owners and 70 projects. Do you think they actually know whether all 70 projects are on track or not? Or do you think they have to guess at that point? Right? You're doing a lot of guessing. If I open up the first one and it's on fire, all my attention and time and energy is going to go to trying to fix that one. And I have no idea how the other 69 are going. And a lot of problems are small if you get to them fast. But the longer you wait to deal with them, the bigger they are and the more time and energy and resources it'll take. So every week, these guys are opening up as many as they can get to. They're having conversations with people, somebody else who might have opened it. They're giving their weird assessment. Nobody's on the same page. Nobody knows what's happening. All their time is going to just trying to figure out what the heck is actually happening. They have a data problem. So what do you do about that? You're gonna love this. Most of the teams that I work with, the year that we do the first year that I work with them, we do really simple things. So this isn't actually what we did, but it's a visual representation. We laid out a red, yellow, green rating system for projects because every project already had a project manager. So one of the things that we changed is we created a report with the project manager tell us, is it red, yellow, or green? Green means we're good. I think we have all the people we need. We're on track to hit our deadlines. We got this. Yellow means we're in trouble, but I think I can handle it. Could use some help if there's some available. And red means it's on fire, red alert, I need help and space from somebody. Then instead of sitting down in a weekly meeting and looking at 70 projects and kind of getting to whatever they could get to in the conversation, they could look at the list and know exactly which projects they should pay attention to first. So now instead of spending all their time just trying to figure out what's going on, they're spending their time working on the things that will make the biggest difference. So let me give you another example. This is also from that same company. How many of you feel like you didn't necessarily get the manager training that you needed? Because we don't train managers around here. We just promote them, right? You've been here a while. You're good at your job. You show up on time. You'll be a manager, which is lovely, except that management is a hard job and engineering is a hard job in a hard industry. So they had all kinds of people who were now managers, but had never been trained. And they're doing really hard work. A lot of things are late. They don't have the right infrastructure. So things are kind of messy and painful a lot of the time. One of the things that we did is we instituted something very simple. We asked the employees 2 questions. What's your mental health at work this week? Are you personally in a red, yellow, or green zone this week? And what do you feel like you are at home? Red, yellow, or green? We didn't ask people to tell us about their divorces or their dogs that were dying if they didn't want to. There was space if they needed to. But we wanted to know, where do you think you're at? So that a manager that doesn't have a lot of skills could at least figure out whose head was sort of on fire. And if you, who have never seen this report before, and you just learned how it works 2 minutes ago, can you figure out on this sheet of paper which one of these people needs some help? Pretty simple, right? It's the people that are red for a while. And you notice we've got one who was yellow a few weeks ago, off work this week, red, and off work this week. That's a red flag right there. Same with this person at the bottom. You guys, the interesting thing is I've never seen such a small change create such a dramatic improvement in an organization. Within 6 months, they went from, I don't feel like my boss cares about me. This place is too hard. You guys are driving us too hard. Really negative characterizations were used. 6 months later, we had people, I'm not kidding, crying in a meeting because they've never worked at a company that cared so much. This is literally all we changed. We didn't even have the managers go interact with these people. We didn't send them gift baskets. We just asked how they were and paid attention to it. This is an example of how you take something that is confusing and frustrating and a big thing like dealing with people, and you use infrastructure to help you do it more effectively. Pretty impressive, right? So I'm going to stop sharing and back out here. I want to give you just a few more examples. Is this making sense, you guys? Those of you who are on camera, you're good? Awesome. Thanks, Christy. It's kind of a lot, right? So a few more examples of really good infrastructure. Things that are high value targets, as we would call them. One is manager training. right? If you've ever wished that you knew how to confront somebody without them hating you, right? That's management training. How do you hold people accountable? One of the things I do with almost every group I work with is we build what we call a functional org chart. It's an org chart, but we lie about the name so they don't get weird about that we're going to change the org chart. And the truth is, as you grow, your business is going to change, people are going to change, skill sets that you need are going to change, and yet we don't change the org chart necessarily. We just kind of keep going and we tack on jobs to people and we don't think that through. So sitting down to actually think it through can make a big difference. I worked with a project management company one year. They were an owner's rep in construction, right? And they had always wanted to build a toolbox of best practices. What are the very best ones? And while we were working together, because we put in accountability and structures to track the big on the business work, they got it done. They saved so much money and so much time because they moved so much faster with that really best practices toolbox that they actually had to change their pricing model because they were too fast. And now they had to bill in a different way and at a different rate to recoup the money. How many of you wish you had better meetings? Or you just know that your meetings kind of suck and you have no idea how to get out of that? 3 quick examples of things that we do with almost every team. We teach everybody to do a 2-minute report. So you share your reporting scoreboard, whatever it's supposed to be, and then you have pre-prepared a report where you're going to share your victories, your breakdowns, and any updates that the team needs from you. 2 minutes. So now we're all on the same page about where everybody is. We've got all the critical information, and now we can get to work on those code reds.
Alecia, can you say those 3 one more time, just in case someone wants to write them down?
Yep. So in your 2-minute report, has to be done in advance. That's the rule. You want to have them share victories. Most teams don't celebrate enough, and you might not need celebration, but your teams do. So victories. Second one is breakdowns. Where is there a problem? Where is something not going to get done when we said? Where is it on fire? And the third one is any updates that your team needs as they collaborate with different pieces of work moving through the organization. Thank you, Stacy. 2 others that are really simple. I have people do objectives, not agendas. What is the point of this meeting? Are we trying to decide something? Are we trying to brainstorm? Are we trying to problem solve? Are we trying to kill each other? Like, what are we trying to do? And then if you need an agenda to achieve that objective, that's fine, but start with your objective. What's the end result we want out of this meeting, and make sure everybody knows what it is. And then you decide who's going to be in the room based on that objective, not based on the egos and who's going to feel hurt if they don't get invited. And then the last one is, as a team, we teach people how to disagree. We teach them how to work through decisions in a way that is fast and efficient and actually comfortable for everybody. So what I want you to do right now is write down, what are some things that you can see? You might have heard me say one of them, and you go, wow, I need to build some stuff. And you may not know what you need to build, but your meetings are not good. You don't know what's going on, and you know you need some kind of tool. You're just not sure what that tool is or where to get it. Okay, but write down 2 or 3 things out of all the different types of infrastructure that we just did. By the way, if you want to cheat, write down train my managers. That is a high value target. They're right next to the people that do most of the work. They're the reason good people leave, right? Train your managers, fire the person who's the grumpy pants that everybody hates and makes everybody's life hard. That is a retention secret that nobody talks about, and everybody should. Build some simple reporting tools. You don't want to have everybody spending thousands of hours on stuff, but a simple reporting tool, even that just tells you red, yellow, green on our top 70 projects, is a game changer, you guys. And if you like, would you throw a few in the chat? What are some things that you would like to build? What are some things that you need? People are like, I can't share. I have to write them all down. I'm going to need these later. Oh, mental health tracker. Yep. That one, that still floors me. People were crying. We didn't do anything with the information. We just asked them how they were, and they lost their minds. Such an incredible fix. Team celebrations. How many of you know you need to do more celebration? Because just asking people to start meetings with their victories, a little quick 30-second victory, private or professional, is also a game changer. Focusing on meeting objectives, communicating in graphics, not words. Ooh, that's really good. I don't know who panthertech.net is, but bam. Okay, good. So we're going to keep going because we're for sure going to end on time. There are all sorts of things that you can build, right? Again, you don't have to fix everything to fix everything. It's not trying to get to all of it. You just find the place to begin, right? Grab a shovel, start moving some snow. Everything will start getting easier as you do, okay? So I'm going to pop us back into the slideshow. I know, how simple are these, right? People always laugh. They're like, we need fancier, more blah. No, you have to use the most simple version of things for a full 6 months, and then you can pick fancy. So what do you need to build? All right, shift number 4. So shift number 1, be stubborn. Number 2, admit it's not working. Number 3, the big one, build infrastructure. This one is one of the best insider tips that I can possibly give you, you guys. I've been doing this a long time. I'm very well compensated because we create huge ROI for teams that I work with. But this is one of my favorites. Do it as a team. See, everybody understands and thinks that it makes sense for sports teams to have coaches. Business, just like football or baseball, is also a team sport. It is a chemistry sport. It's not enough to just have individual people perform well. To really win, you need to have a team that can perform well, especially at your executive level. And it's not automatic that a group of people can just become a good team. So one of the things that helps me get way better results for people way faster is to work with their leadership team. So as a team, they learn how to make decisions, share resources, create a strong work culture that matches their values and that they actually want to be a part of. It is a game changer to have your team work together. Plus, when it comes to learning, a lot of teams send 1 or 2 people away to a training and then wonder why the good ideas that they bring back don't actually stick. Or one person reads a book. How many of you have done this? Somebody read a book, they come in and they're all excited and they tell everybody about the book, and then that doesn't necessarily stick either. Or the big boss has a new project and people might even be excited about it, but a few months later, it's just a good idea that never actually got done in a pile of good ideas that didn't actually get done. Why is that? Well, one of the reasons is change is hard. And a big change that impacts a group of people, one that changes not just individual habits, but group dynamics, and maybe even requires learning new processes and using new tools, that is a really big change. And infrastructure is a really big change. When you shift from solving problems to dealing with patterns of problems and the core issues underneath them, developing processes and system solutions, that's a very different way to think. So your team needs to learn how to play a new game in a new way, and they're going to learn faster and get better results if they learn it as a team. So the truth is, nothing necessarily makes change easy, but it does get easier if you have a group of people doing it together in a committed way. They reinforce the learning with one another instead of resisting it, and it's a huge deal. So I want to give you, as you think about your team and what they might need, I want to give you another one of my great secrets. I developed this for a manufacturing company that I used to work with because the executive team was just broken all the time. They fought with each other. Their meetings were 4 hours every Wednesday. I wanted to die. It took forever to get them out of that. But one of the things that I created for them that has held true for a lot of years since then is this secret. It's the clarity, alignment, and visibility secret. So if you have a team that you think should be doing better than it actually is, you can apply this model. So here's the truth. The truth is that confusion invites conflict. So we usually think about conflict like somebody needs to be nice, or we need to have a good talk and talk it out. And those things can definitely help. But if there's confusion underneath it, if there's a lack of clarity, then the conflict is just going to sneak right back in. Teams need clarity. They need to know where we're going, how we're planning to get there, who's going to do what on that job. If you give them that, they're going to perform at a much higher level. And some teams are missing one of these things. Some teams are missing all 3 of them. The more they're missing, the easier it is to fix, because man, there's a lot of stuff that isn't working. Alignment is a big one. Alignment means not agreement. That doesn't mean that I agree with you, but like if we're going to Vegas and I want to take a road trip and you want to get on an airplane, we have to come to some kind of agreement because we can't do both at the same time. So I might not agree that the airplane is the best way. I might think the road trip would be way more fun, but I can agree that we'll go, or I can align with you that we're going to get on an airplane instead. And that means I give up the right to pout, to be a brat, to cause problems in the airport. I throw the full weight of my intentions and my work and my energy behind the solution that we aligned on. If you have a team that's not performing, you want to check on whether or not they're aligned. And then the last one is visibility. This is not transparency. Transparency means we're going to share all the numbers with you. We're going to give you a look behind the curtain. Visibility means I can see whether or not you're doing your job without you telling me. We talk so much about trust in our culture, and I think it's kind of dumb because trust takes a long time to develop. Some people never trust anybody, no matter how trustworthy they are. And ultimately, I don't care about trust. I care about workability. If I can see what you're doing, I don't have to trust you because I can see what you're doing. So it's fine to build trust, but if you focus on visibility first, you smooth the way, you speed everything way, way, way up. So what I want to have you focus on in shift number 4 is your leadership team especially. You want them to learn together and to do the work to become a high-performing team by making sure they have that clarity, that alignment, that visibility. So I want to ask you to write a few things down here. I'm going to ask you some questions about your team. You might want to give them an overall rating on a scale of 1 to 10. How well do you think they do? Give them a grade, A, B, C, D, or F. How good are the results that they produce? And then ask yourself these questions. How is that team doing? Do they know the goals? Are the goals that they would say the same ones that you would say? Are they aligned with those goals? Are they aligned with each other? Some of the conflict that you've been trying to fix is literally just one person being a brat and they won't get on board. So you can skip everything else and just sit them down and have that talk. Is everyone on the same page? Do they have the skills that they need? You guys, the truth about most companies is that they're running their meetings with all the sophistication of the 10th grade student council down the street. Because that's how most of us run meetings. And actually, most 10th grade student councils run better meetings than most companies. So do they need some skills? Do they need some tools? Do they have the tools that they need? I work with a big company and data has been a huge problem. They just can't get the numbers. They don't have good financials. So it's really hard to make good decisions. Do you have any bullies? Do you have any stinkers? Do you have any lazy people? Do you have any shady people? Do you have somebody who should be confronted about their baloney that nobody is confronting? Could be their attitude, could be their effort level, could be their results. Do you have any skill gaps? And do you have the right people on the team? So I want to check in with you guys. If you would throw into the chat, what are some of the things you're noticing about your team? You're like, man, we are not aligned. People have meetings coming up. So you want to check in with what's going on with your team, because doing it as a team, high performers being combative. I love that. That's a great one. Skill gaps, right? Not everybody knows the same thing or does it in the same way. Oh, somebody who rates themselves higher than everybody else. Oh my gosh. It's very funny, the stuff that people do. Rates himself 5 and 5 in reviews, but the feedback loops we have in place show he's not even at a 2. Ooh, that is brutal. Yeah, by the way, at a Christmas party I was at in December at one of my clients, a guy came up to me and was effusive in his compliments and so grateful. And the funny thing is, I had yelled at him 3 weeks before about his attitude. I didn't pull any punches. I was like, you have a contagious attitude. You're bringing the whole group down. I don't think this is who you are, but you should choose because this is ridiculous. And he was so grateful that, because how many of you have been the stinker or the bully or the jerk and just not been able to get out of your own way until somebody really called you on it? It's actually an act of service. So we're going to cover just one more of the 5 shifts. Thank you for everybody who shared. Those are great things to keep in mind. So we've got 4 shifts so far, right? You want to be stubborn, admit it's not working, build the infrastructure, do it as a team. And then this is the last one. And I'm going to say this. One of the things that I do that clients really like to focus on is we create a huge ROI. And I want everybody that I work with to get at least a 10x return on the money that they spend with me within 3 years. So 10x, whatever they spend with me within 3 years. And usually they get way more than that in year number 1, partly because I'm a genius, partly because there's a lot of low-hanging fruit, and infrastructure problems are very expensive and very frustrating. So when you fix them, you get a big boost on the other side. But the truth also is that there are times when hiring an expert, so this is our next, shift. There are times when hiring an expert is such a big win that it's actually bananas not to. And I get it. We all want to run lean organizations, and there's a lot of people in the world who want to sell us a lot of stuff. It's not always easy to know where to start when there's so many different things we could be doing and so many different resources that you could focus on. But there are 3 areas where you're going to get a disproportionately high value, and these I recommend focusing on first. So the first one is going to be money. You guys, a big pile of money can hide a multitude of sins, and it usually does. Most of us, if you have a small company that sort of organically grows, you kind of get used to, if there's money in the bank, everything must be okay. And there's a reason why people go to school for 4 years or 8 years to learn all kinds of sophisticated financing and accounting rules and how to do those things, because it's a specialty unto itself. You definitely want to hire controllers and CFOs way before you think you need them. There are fractional CFOs. That is a brilliant role. You need somebody analyzing your money, not just telling you how much of it is there and making sure you pay your taxes. You want somebody doing that analysis. Cash is oxygen. And if you're on a space shuttle, you pay really close attention to how much oxygen you've got and whether or not those systems are working. It is crazy to run a growing business and not do the same thing with money. So hiring people there. Second place is around managers. As we've talked about, people get promoted, but they don't get trained, which is crazy. It's literally like we have the head of a surgery unit who decides to leave, and they replace him or her with a janitor because that person knows how we do things and has been around a long time. That is not the same as knowing how to do surgery. And again, don't promise people that they're always going to be the head of their department or the head of their area. Running a $10 million company is really, really different than running a $100 million company. So anything you can do to train your managers and to build the structures around which your managers manage people, like that example I showed you where they do the mental health check, that stuff tends to produce way big disproportionate results. And technically that's all, in my mind, part of infrastructure, but infrastructure specifically, the things where you're building systems and processes and tools, where you're taking all that good tribal knowledge about how we do things and making sure that you funnel it into a structure so that when Joe finally retires, we don't lose all the magic that Joe brought to our organization. And so anytime you invest in any one of these areas, that's a really, really, really big deal, especially when you're going through those massive stages of growth. Remember when I said that you don't have to fix everything to fix everything? This is what I mean. Start with your money. That's it's fractional CFO. It might be that you need to hire a general counsel. I know there's a good one on this call right now. Hi, Amy. You need her number, give me a call. People that are a good fit for you and the way you want to run your business, but they're going to help you avoid expensive mistakes. And more importantly, they're going to help you build those elements of infrastructure. So the last thing that I'm going to have you do is I want you to write out your 1, 2, 3 plan. And you guys, this is such a great sheet. And let me pop back into the regular room. And then Stacy, we're going to do one more breakout room. A 1, 2, 3 plan is just you picking 3 things from everything that we talked about today that you want to focus on. And you guys, you don't have to pick the perfect 3. You don't have to pick big things or little things. Just tell, like, this is the stuff that I need to find some help in. This is the stuff I need to make sure that I make time to do. This is the conversation that I need to make sure that I have. Pick 3 things. And Mariana is asking if the recording will be available. We're definitely going to have the recording, and I believe we'll have a transcription that we can send out, and it'll have everything in there. Okay. So things that you might want to put in your 1, 2, 3 plan. Like I said, good business attorney, having a fractional CFO can be a game changer. Confront that person with the bad attitude. Finally hire that new team member. You might want to schedule a retreat with your leaders so you can set goals and get everybody aligned. Maybe you need to talk to your team, do some research about a technology solution. Get a therapist, do a rebrand, join a peer group, take a vacation, bring your spouse flowers or booze or whatever it is that they like. Take a class on confrontation, get better at celebration, hire Alecia. Just kidding, we have to have a call before you do that. You guys, these are the shifts that you make. These aren't magic formulas that magically make everything better, but they're the things that you need to move your brain toward. You're paying attention now to the right things. You're focusing on building that infrastructure, that team, having the experts that you need. That's the stuff that makes the biggest difference. And remember, it's not what I said. It's not anything in the slides, even though we're going to get those to you. It's what you take action on that really matters. So we're going to wrap up as a group. We'll give people a chance to share what they liked best, what's in their plan. But before we do, I want to cover one more small thing. Some of you are curious about working with me, so I want to let you know just a couple quick things. And you've got a QR code up there that'll take you right to a scheduling link. I typically work with companies between 5 and 75 million. Some of them are smaller, some of them are a little bigger, some of them are a lot bigger, but that's generally the range. I typically work with their entire leadership team. So if that sounds good to you, that we're on the right track. And typically those engagements take about a year as a starting point, because it takes time to make these changes and you're already really busy doing a lot of other stuff. I typically onboard between 1 and 2 new teams a quarter. If you do retreats in the beach areas, I am happy to make room for you, generally speaking. And if you have a smaller company, I do work with a couple of people where they're too small to work with their whole team. They don't have a team. So I work with them and do individual executive coaching. But the best thing that you can do is just schedule a call with that link up there. We're going to talk through what you're working on. We'll talk about what you need. And then if it feels like a good fit to both of us, I can give you a range of options so you have different ways and different things that you can choose from. But the big picture message that I want to leave you all with is that you work really, really hard to run your business. And I think that the people who raise their hand and create jobs for other people, I think that's a big deal, you guys. I think it's a very big deal. And I think when you sink that much of yourself into those relationships, when you're the one who's grappling with some of those really hard questions and problems, you deserve at minimum to have a fighting chance at winning. So make sure that you get one. Get yourself the help that you need, wherever that needs to come from. Take the time to do the work to make sure that you're not just sort of going through growth, but you're really continuing to be intentional and drive your business so you get where you want to go and you build the kind of company that you've always wanted to run.